okay, when we're trying to compare fractions, the first thing we want to do is look at the denominators of the two fractions. So in this case we have 3/5 and 1/2. So the denominators are 5 and 2. So let's write those down and just kind of line them up there. And now let's look at the multiples of the two numbers. So you have to list the multiples. You don't have to list all of them because you can't. But you want to list, enough of them where you can find a common multiple. So the lowest common multiple. So in this case, let's find the multiples of 5. So we have 5, 10, 15, and let's look at 2. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Well, the reason that we didn't go past 15 is because you don't want to get too far when you're comparing two numbers. When you're trying to figure out the multiple or the common multiples, you don't want to go too far because you probably find a lower one if you don't go that far. So in this case we have 5, 10, and 15 for 5, and 2's multiples are 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And it looks like we have a common multiple in 10. So that's what we're going to use to figure out which of these fractions is larger. So now that we know we have a common multiple of 10, and that's our lowest common multiple, we're going to turn those two fractions, 3/5 and 1/2, into different fractions that equal the same amount. So in this case we're going to turn 3/5 into a fraction where the denominator equals that lowest common multiple, which is 10. And we're going to do the same thing with 1/2. We're going to take 1/2 and turn it into a compatible fraction, an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of that lowest common multiple, which is 10. So let's do that. So if we do that to 3/5, we have 10, as our denominator, and so we have to figure out, okay, well, what do we do to multiply, or what do we multiply times 5, the earlier denominator, to get 10? And the same thing goes for the other side. So we know that, well, to get 10 on the other side, 1/2, so 2, we have to do something. We have to multiply 2 by something to get 10, and we know that that's 5. So we're going to multiply the denominator by 5, and we get 10. So if we do that to the bottom, or if we do that to the denominator, we need to do the same thing to the numerator. But let's go ahead and check out our other fraction on the other side. 3/5, well, we know that we can turn that 5 into 10 by multiplying it by 2. So we've changed the denominator on both sides of this this problem. So we have 10 and 10 over there. Now we just got to figure out what the numerators change into. And as we know, we do the same thing to the numerator that we do to the denominator when we're finding equivalent fractions. So let's go ahead and do that. If 5 times 2 is 10, well, 3 times 2 is 6. So that fraction goes from 3/5 and turns into 6/10. Now, on the other side, that 1/2, well, we know that 2 times 5 is 10. Well, 1 times 5 is 5. And so now we have two different fractions that equal the same amount. So these are equivalent fractions. So 6/10 and 5/10, well, since they both have the same denominator, then it's really easy to tell which one's bigger, the 6/10. Now I'm just going to go ahead and draw it kind of out in those little fraction sticks that you've seen before, just to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. So the initial 3/5 and 1/2 are illustrated here, and as you can see, the 3/5 is larger than the 1/2, and that's how you do it. You take your two fractions, find a common denominator, and then figure out what the numerators are, and there you go. That's how you figure out how to compare sizes of fractions.